All right, shalom alechem rabotai. Welcome to our Wednesday class on Yalkut Yosef. Last time we started talking about Berkat Shehechiyanu, which is, by the way, very, very relevant for the night of Rosh Hashanah. It's a big discussion. What exactly happens on Rosh Hashanah? Do we say Shehechiyanu twice, the first night and the second night, or only the first night? Halacha l'maaseh, we make two Shechianos, even though Rosh Hashanah seems like one holiday. How does that work? But when it comes to the Tikiyat Shofar, we only say Shechianu on the first day, not on the second day. Shechianu now is a very, let's call it hit topic, right? Some say that it's good to bring for the second night of Rosh Hashanah, since there's a machloket whether we say Shechianu on the second night as well. Rashi says that we do, and therefore we follow the Shita of Rashi. And according to the Kabbalah, even if you don't have a new fruit, you would still say Shechianu. But some poskim say it's good to bring a new fruit on the table, or maybe a new clothing item on the second night, so that when you say Shehechiyanu on the Kiddush, have in mind to be motzi that fruit as well. Some say that if you did that, then it would be recommended to also taste from the fruit after. So this is a whole topic. Let's try to dive into Shehechiyanu a little more, Be'ezrat Hashem. Who joined us now as well? John, Baruch haba, John. Okay, so regarding alcohol. All right, so this is an extension of Shehechiyanu, but the Yalkut Yosef quotes or lets us know that when you are about to do a l'chaim or a borei pri hagefen, so right, a lot of the times the custom is to hold up the cup of wine and to say a few words and to bless everybody and then borei pri hagefen. But really, the better way to do it is first to say borei pri hagefen, take a sip, and then do the l'chaim. It's not so accepted. Most people don't do it that way, but really, when you do it like that, what happens after you've enjoyed the wine? Now that your mind has opened up, your heart has opened up, now you're giving the berachot to everybody. So if it's a crowd, again, a lot of the times we face this. If this is a crowd that will think it's strange that you're doing a lechaim before you're doing borei pri hagefen, before you're saying a few words, that's a different case. But if it's a crowd that understand, for example, in the Siyum Shas that we had this year, before I said anything, I lifted up the l'chaim, I said Savim Maran Borei pri hagefen, and then we started, opening, the wine opens up. All right. Now situation that's back to Shehechiyanu. That was the side note. Back to Shehechiyanu. Someone has a new fruit on the table. Let's say he has a pomegranate and he hasn't had it yet. And he looks so yummy. He takes a bite of the pomegranate. And after eating it, he says, oh my God, I forgot to say Shehechiyanu. Can I now say Shehechiyanu after I've already tasted from the fruit, or since once I tasted, story over? Anybody want to guess? Or maybe someone knows? All right, Halacha l'maaseh will tell you the answer. Once you've tasted, you cannot say Shehechiyanu anymore on that fruit. That's it. You missed your chance, as opposed to seeing. Some say that, because that's really the language of Chazal, that when someone sees something, he could say Shehechiyanu on it. For example, back in the day, you would walk in the market and you would see now a new type of grapes that you haven't seen for a whole season, right? You want to say Shehechiyanu on it, you don't have to taste it. You would just see it and you would say Shehechiyanu. But it's not so simple to always say that just by seeing, you could say the beracha. Because, I don't know, maybe it makes you sad because it's so expensive and you can't afford it. So you're going to say Shehechiyanu, but actually you're saddened by the fact that you can't eat that. So it's a discussion. But in certain cases, even Rabbi Ben Chaim says, for example, regarding a sukkah, at what point do we say Shehechiyanu, do we not say Shehechiyanu? He holds that even in the process of building the sukkah, you're enjoying it so much, you can say Shehechiyanu on the fact that you have a sukkah. You don't have to wait till the night of Sukkot. But halacha l'maaseh, once I've tasted the fruit, everybody agrees that now the joy of the fruit is not new to me anymore. I cannot say Shehechiyanu. So what should I do? He does give us a recommendation. He says that it would be wise for you to find another fruit, a fruit that is new to you, and you haven't said Shehechiyanu on it yet. Say Shehechiyanu on that, and have in mind the pomegranate as well, so that way it's not like you missed Shehechiyanu on the pomegranate, because at the end of the day, it was included in your second berachot. Do we say Shehechiyanu on the days of Sefirat HaOmer? It's important to clarify this because we have two seasons where people are usually careful of saying Shehechiyanu. One of them is Sefirat HaOmer, and one of them is the 3 weeks, especially on the 9 days, especially in Tisha B'Av, of course. But those are two periods that, in people's mind, it's a problem. Maybe not. We'll see. To wear new things or to say Shehechiyanu. So let's look into that a little bit. So regarding a clothing item, right, you would be allowed to say Shehechiyanu on it even during the days of Sfirat HaOmer. And he says the Yalkut Yosef, Mimidat Chasidut, if you want to be a Chasid, avoid it, all right? And save the Berkat Shehechiyanu until Shabbat. But Minadin, you are allowed to actually say Shehechiyanu, even though we say Sfirat HaOmer, the students of Rabbi Akiva passed away. Is it a hard time? So we have to understand the difference. During the 3 weeks from Yudzayin B'Tammuz, where the walls of Yerushalayim were broken, until Tisha B'Av, where it was the beginning of the destruction of Beit HaMikdash, in those 3 weeks, those are considered bad times, Zman Por'anut. Kol rodefei hisigua ben hametzarim. Our enemies reached us in this time. So it's a bad time. In this bad time, it's not right to say Shehechiyanu, all right? Over there, the din is only on Shabbat. You can't say. Over here, that's not the din. Sfirat HaOmer is not a bad time. In fact, the Ramban brings down that in the future, it's like Chol HaMoed. It's like Chol HaMoed between Pesach and Shavuot, and the whole middle is one big Chol HaMoed. It's a happy occasion, and therefore, of course, there's no problem to say. Min adin. You want to be careful, you want to be a Chassid, say it on Shabbat. But during the 3 weeks, it is actually a difficult time for Am Yisrael, and we believe that if a time is able, just like a Seret Emet Shuvah is able, that our tefillot are much more accepted, Hashem Amelech Basadeh, Hashem is much more close, we're able to do more at this time. Also Chodesh Elul, Chodesh HaRachamim VaSelichot. Why is it called that? Because after Chet HaEgel, before we received the second Luchot HaBrit, the first one was broken, the second one that we received was later on, but in the middle there were 40 days, which is Chodesh Elul. In those 40 days, Moshe Rabbeinu went up to Har Sinai again, asked for forgiveness from Hashem, and Hashem said, Salachti kidvarecha. And only after that, 40 more days until he got the second pair of Luchot HaBrit. Those 40 days in the middle were on Chodesh Elul, and that's why this month is able, it has the ability for Hashem to forgive us. We believe that in the time of the 3 weeks, Lo alenu, but those are times that have poranot, that the enemies have control over us, or there's less recommendation to do business, or whatnot. It's a zman that is not great for Am Yisrael, right? We believe in that. And therefore, in that time, you're not allowed to say Shehechiyanu, only on Shabbat. But during Sfirat HaOmer, Min Adin, you could even say during the days. Better if you can stay until Shabbat. Who knows this? Next question. When we learned the topic of tefillin, if you remember, right now we are on the 5th or 6th volume of the Yalkut Yosef, out of, I don't know, 30, how many, Baruch Hashem, we have up there. Started already preparing for us the next volume on Shabbat. Shabbat Aleph, Shabbat has 5 volumes. Shabbat is a huge part of the Yalkut Yosef, and that's our next topic. But right now we are finishing up the halachot until then. One of the first halachot that we learned in the beginning, I'm reminding you a little bit, we learned how a person wakes up in the morning. You have a list before me over here. Tzitzit, then we touch tefillin, Berachot HaShachar, Kriyat Shema, Tefillah, Nesiat Kapam, reading the Sefer Torah, the halachot in Beit HaKnesset, the halacha of Netilat Yadayim, the halacha of breaking bread, the stuff you do in a Seudah, Berkat HaMazon, the Berachot, and other items like Berkat HaReach. And then we reached Shar Minei Brachot, other Berachot. That's where we're holding right now. Soon we're going to get to the second part of Orach Chaim. And in the second part of Orach Chaim, that's talking about Shabbat. But from that list that I just mentioned, when we learned Hilchot Tefillin and also Tzitzit, we spoke about Berkat Shehechiyanu. Does anybody remember? Do we say Berkat Shehechiyanu for the Bar Mitzvah boy? It's the first time that he's putting on Tefillin. Is Tefillin get a Shehechiyanu or no? Anybody remember the halacha?
No.
Yes.
Oh, machloket. We have a machloket. I love machloket. This is how we'll remember, Be'ezrat Hashem. So I have Giacomo saying, no Shehechiyanu. I have Johnny saying, yes, Shehechiyanu.
I only know because I was at the Tefillin Bar Mitzvah a few weeks ago, and the kid said it, so I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, so this Johnny, this would be a classic example in which we don't learn halachot from people, because sometimes people don't know the halacha. We learn halachot from the books. But I'm going to say, halacha l'maaseh is like what Giacomo said, that you do not say Shehechiyanu on tefillin. But I'm going to get to what happened in the bar mitzvah that you were in. It's possible that he said Shehechiyanu on something else. That's the recommendation. So first, the dry halacha. The dry halacha is, we can only say Shehechiyanu on mitzvot that come from time to time. For example, Tekiyat Shofar. It comes once a year. So that's why you say Shehechiyanu. By the way, that's why in the second day we already don't say the Shehechiyanu, but it came once a year, it came back to us, right? Certain mitzvot, when they are like that, are chadim as well. They come to us, right? Arbat Aminim, for example. They come to us once a year from the first time, we say Shehechiyanu on them. But the mitzvah tefillin is not a mitzvah that comes to us from time to time. It's always there every single day. In fact, some opinions hold that you could even put on tefillin at night, and it's not recommended because maybe someone will fall asleep and you'll pass gas, and it's not for the honor of the tefillin. But really, the tefillin is a constant mitzvah, and therefore, it's not a mitzvah that comes from time to time. No shehechiyah. What is the recommendation? The recommendation is that, okay, you want, kid is excited about it, so find a new clothing item, or find a fruit, say shehechiyanu on that, and have in mind for the tefillin. But what happens with a talit? Now you may say, Ziv, what's the question? Talit has the same din as tefillin. It's a mitzvah that does not come from time to time. Every day we put on a talit. So there's not a shehechiyanu. So the truth is, we're not saying the mitzvah on the talit because it's a mitzvah that comes from time to time. But the talit is a clothing item. It's considered a beged, a levush. And on clothing, anything that is valuable to you that makes you happy, you say shehechiyanu. Once there was the Rav Dut.
Oh, that's why he did. That's why he did.
So
Yeah, on the talit. On the talit.
Probably his talit was new. Either his talit was new. That's what the chatan does on the night of the chuppah, even though it's nighttime and you don't say litatef betzitzit at night, but sometimes they bring the talit and they say to the chatan, it's a brand new talit. Say shehechiyanu on the talit and have in mind your kala as well, because the kala, she also doesn't come from time to time. Once you marry her, hopefully she's there forever. So the kala, there's no shehechiyanu on the kala. But on the talit, there's a shehechiyanu, not because it's a mitzvah that comes from time to time, but because it's a clothing item. It really, back in the day, the talit was a clothing item. They would just, add tzitziot to their, it's like a blanket that they would cover themselves on, and in the four corners, they would put the tzitziot. Today, we already buy a special one. By the way, what is the value of an item that makes you happy in order for you to say shehechiyanu? Because it has to make you happy. So Rav Budbul, the son-in-law of Rav Ovadia, which I quote a lot, he was asked on the radio show that question, and his answer was that he estimates that in Israel today, a normal person, whenever he wears a new item that is worth more than 200 shekel, which is about $55, let's say, it makes him happy enough to say shehechiyanu. But I would say that I don't know that people that live in Great Neck or in Kings Point and buy an item for $55, it makes them very happy. For people in Israel that their average salary is much lower, that may be an average, something that makes them happy. But it's individual. You have to see what makes you happy, okay? So it could be that you're a very simple person, and even a $30 item will make you feel so excited, and you're going to want to say shehechiyanu. But could be people that $1,000 item wouldn't change anything in their life.
That's only for clothing or anything new you buy?
We're talking about clothing, because other things don't go by value. A new fruit, shehechiyanu, is because it's new every season. People could do it once a year.
No, but the object, what object? Like
what? For example, what?
Any object. I know. I buy a pen that I really love, enjoy, beautiful pen that I write in. I don't know.
So the minhag is to do it on clothing and on fruit. We don't say shehechiyanu even on a car that's very valuable or a home that's very valuable. We don't say shehechiyanu. But if it means a lot to you, the trick is to take that new fruit into the car or into the house, into the Chanukah bayit. People have a Chanukah bayit, they wear a new tzitzit or they wear a new jacket or whatever it is. They say shehechiyanu on that and they have in mind the house. But the minhag is to say that either on clothing or on the fruits, or of course on the mitzvot whenever.
Clothing because you wear them. That's why it makes you feel.
It makes you happy, not because it's a mitzvah.
I mean, a lot of things makes you happy. That's my point. Not only clothing.
That's why I said the minhag is there's a minhag here. The minhag is not to do it on everything that makes you happy because it's an endless list. The minhag is to do it on clothing, and as I said, on the fruit. The minhag is not to do it on a house or other things like that. That's the minhag. You're right. I hear what you're saying, because you could be happy from a lot of things, but you have to look at what people do, and that's the minhag. So the minhag is on clothing. All right. So
but one question: when you don't see a friend for a long time, then you have to say shehechiyanu.
Very good, very good. So that's also brought halakha, as we learned this a couple of weeks ago, that there is a shehechiyanu on a friend that you haven't seen for 30 days, even if you heard of him, you heard his voice on the radio, whatever it is, you haven't seen him physically, and now that you see him, and you love him. He makes you happy. That's individual. It's not so easy to come to the guy and say, oh, Shehechiyanu, and in your heart, this guy, I don't like him so much. No problem. You have to really be happy. But you're right. On people, that's also brought down. The minhag is to say on Ezra. Thanks for reminding me. You're right. That's another time where you say Shehechiyanu as well. All right. Next topic amongst other berachot that we make is ברכת האילנות. And בהלכה in Shulchan Aruch is היוצא בחודש ניסן ורואה אילנות מלבלבים. Whoever goes out, maybe we'll touch what it means to go out in a second, but whoever goes and sees fruits, right, or fruit trees, it has to be a fruit tree that is now blossoming. There's a season where it blossoms, sometime around Pesach. That's where it says היוצא בחודש ניסן. He goes and he says the ברכת האילנות, right? It's a beautiful beracha that Hashem, thank you for creating these beautiful trees. שברא בעולמו בריות טובות ואילנות טובות להחיות בהם בני אדם. And you revive us through these trees. That's ברכת האילנות. Now it says in Chodesh Nisan because in Israel, that is the time that we see the trees blossoming. It should be in the time where the fruits haven't come out yet, but the flowers have come out yet. And it's recommended to have two fruit trees like this. Then you could say the beracha at that time. But if already the fruits are big and growing out, you missed your chance. A specific time. I think in New York, sometimes it's a little bit after Pesach. I've been a few times in New York where Rabbi Chaim, it used to be in 54, there used to be like, I don't know if they still have it, like an apple tree in the back, a few apple trees, and they would blossom around that time, you could say. But if it wasn't the season, maybe it happened one year that only in Iyar, the trees started blossoming, then go and say it in Iyar, no problem. But the idea is that when they're blossoming. Shulchan Aruch says Hayotze b'chodesh Nisan because in Israel, that's how it works. Now, why does it say Hayotze b'chodesh Nisan? He who goes out. So the simple interpretation is meaning you leave your house and you're going to see trees and land, say the beracha. According to the Kabbalah, there's actually an inyan, there's an idea, a specific reason to say this Berkat Ilanot. I don't know if any of you've said it before with Rabbi Chaim in 54. He does that every year. But this bracha is a blessing that we do in the time of Pesach Me'oyes. And the halacha is hayotze, to leave. Why? According to the Kabbalah, it's better that you go even outside of town. Try to find trees that most likely no one ever said a bracha around them. Because we believe that there's some sort of, they call it netzutzei kedusha, holy sparks in the tree. Everything in this world that is alive is revived by some sort of holy spark. It's within it. It could be, according to the Kabbalah, a reincarnation. Someone did something wrong. He was punished. He brought back, and he's now stuck in a tree. It could be many reasons, but it doesn't have to be neshamot. It could be just holy sparks. But whatever it is, there's holiness reviving everything in the world. And when you make a bracha onto something, then you elevate that holy spark that is in it upwards. That's why it's so important to say berachot before we eat. It's not just thank you, Hashem. I remember that everything is from you. Beautiful. That's the pshat. Teach that to your children, of course. But when we grow up and we get to learn a little bit deeper, we understand that there's a spark of holiness reviving this fruit, reviving this well. There's something in there. And by saying a beracha, we are elevating it. We're bringing it back to its upper source. So when you get to say a bracha on a tree, which is something that you could say once a year, right? So make sure it matters. Most trees in your city, people pass by with a Coke and they say or with a coffee. The trees have heard enough berachot around them, and if there's sparks within them, they may have been elevated. But a tree that is so far away, most likely no one has learned Torah around that tree. Most likely no one said a beracha around that tree. It could be that by going out, now you are saving a soul or a spark that is stuck there and is waiting for maybe 1,000 years to go back up. I don't know if trees are 1,000 years old, but you get the idea. It could be stuck there for a long time. So that's why, according to the Kabbalah, the halacha says hayotze, when you leave. But according to the pshat, and that's what we're learning right now, it could be in your city, it could be in your backyard. You have 2 olive trees in your backyard, and they started showing flowers, but the fruits did not come out. Then you could say the beracha of Ilanot. Can I say Ilanot? Sorry, somebody want to ask something?
Oh, what's the bracha, you know?
So I said before, we thank Hashem, שברא בעולמו בריות טובות ואילנות טובות לחיות בהם בני אדם. You want the exact source? Let me see if I have it in here. That's pretty much what I say. 544. Let me read it to you the whole thing. There is a seder, meaning when you go to do with Berachot, it's better to do it with a group of 10. Does that have even has more power of elevation, etc.? And there are certain things that you read before, like Mizmor LeDavid, Hallelujah Adonai Min HaShamayim. Then there's a L'Shem Yichud, and here's the Berachah. Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam. Shelo chiser be'olamo klum. Hashem, He didn't miss anything in this world. Uvarah bo b'riyot tovot v'lyanot tovot. And He created good creations and good trees, le'anot b'hem b'nei Adam, to make people enjoy. That's the Berachah, that's the setup. And again, we say it in the time of Nisan because that's when you actually see most blossoming of the trees. Now, can I say a berachah of the Ilanot on a tree that is a mixture? Let me explain what I mean. When Hashem created the world, there are certain trees that He created. Only throughout time, man did things that are asur, forbidden. What did men do? They took two types of trees and they combined them and they got a new fruit, a nectarine. A nectarine in the 6 days of Bereshit was not created, but it's a combination of I don't know, some sort of fruit and an almond. And I tell you why I know it's with an almond, but a lot of things are combined with an almond. And together they make a new fruit. One day I was eating a nectarine, and when I get to the pit cracked open, and I saw it was an almond. It looked like a regular almond that you get in the store. Unbelievable. Then I found out there are very few trees that we could say about them that they haven't been changed. They are complete. I think mango is one of them. I think obviously etrog existed forever. Maybe an apple as well, if I'm not mistaken. Avocado. There are a few of them. So what do we do with all the etzei hadar? How do you say in English etzei hadar? The oranges and the lemons and the grapefruits, that family of trees. Has a name. I forgot the name in English. If everyone knows, please remind me. But that
citrus.
Citrus, exactly. That family of trees is considered a safek. We don't know if those type of trees, the citruses, perot hadar, existed from Yemei Bereshit, or a man made a kil'ain. The Torah says that you're not allowed to mix two trees together. So how are we eating nectarines today? The answer is, once it's already been done, we are allowed to enjoy it. But we are not allowed to be the person that made it together. That's where the problem begins.
Oh wow! So we're saying a bracha on something that is not allowed.
Very good. So you're allowed to say the beracha she'akol niya borei pri ha'etz on a fruit that is a mixture. That you're allowed to say. But when you come to praise Hashem for creating trees in the world that do us good, then it's a problem to say that beracha when the tree is not a tree that Hashem created. Borei pri ha'etz means thank you Hashem from the fruit tree. Doesn't say that the fruit tree was created by Hashem. It's a combination. Okay. But to say this beracha, berakat האילנות, it has to be that Hashem created it. So if it's an obvious fruit that is mixed, for sure, 100%, you cannot say the beracha. But what happens with the citrus? This is a family of trees that we have a safek about them. So this is the halacha lema'aseh. If you're 100% sure that it is mulkav, you cannot say the beracha. But when it comes to citrus, it's a safek. What do you do with a safek? He also says that when it comes to orla is the first 3 years that a tree is planted. Even though most of the mitzvot that we have in Eretz Yisrael, like Shemitah and Maasot, etc., only exist in Israel. It doesn't exist outside of Israel. But orla is one of the things that the whole world has to keep orla. The first 3 years, you're not allowed to enjoy the fruit, right? So what happens? Am I allowed to say a bracha on a tree in Berkat HaEilyanot that is orla? You could say it's not created for 3 years yet. But the answer is no. There is no isur. There was nothing wrong made in an avocado tree that's only 1 year old. Therefore, I'm allowed to say the beracha, even though it's not in the time that I'm allowed to enjoy it. I'm not taking joy right now. I'm not taking a fruit. I'm just saying a beracha, Berkat HaEilyanot, all right? But regarding the citrus, just no. It's not simple. Those are considered a safek. And it's left like that. So some say that if you have one tree that is for sure, and you want to have the other tree that is a safek, that's an avocado and an orange tree, okay, so you have one for sure, then you could do it by saying it on these two, right? But no, it's better to avoid it because that's considered a safek. So that was another type of beracha. Brakim ורעמים, thunder and lightning. This is a bracha that exists from the time of Chachamim, from the time of the Gemara. Now, do we say this beracha? I'll begin by saying that there's a machloket. Not everybody agrees, but we are learning the Yalkut Yosef, which is the fruits of Rav Yosef and his son, Rav Yitzchak, wrote this book, then we're going to teach the halacha according to him. But we should know that there's a machloket. Some say that maybe we don't say this bracha on thunder and lightning, but just know what the brachot are. So on lightning we say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, oseh maaseh bereshit. And a few seconds later, when the thunder comes, you say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, shekocho ugvurato malei olam. These are two brachot, aren't so common in Israel, but I'm sure in America they're very common. Halachically, by the way, you could even say them a few times a day. There was a storm, and the storm ended, and the sun came out. A few hours later, the sun left you again, and again there's a storm with thunder and lightning. You could say it again. Once it was removed and came back. I was once in England, and this happened to us. Crazy rain. All of a sudden, a few hours later, again, this happens outside of Israel. In Israel, not common at all. But either way, the bracha needs to be said, toch kede dibur, which means within a few seconds of when you saw the lightning. You can't wait 10 seconds and then wake up and say the bracha. It has to be like a kind of over le'asiyato. All right? They say that it's recommended to wait until the thunder, and just say the second bracha, shekocho ugvurato malei olam, and have in mind the lightning as well. All right? That's one recommendation that is brought. The Ben Ish Chai says no. Completely don't say Shem Malchut. Just say Baruch shekocho ugvurato malei olam, but don't say Hashem's name. And they try to explain why. What's the problem of saying a beracha on thunder and lightning? We see that in the time of the Gemara, they used to say this berachot. So why some opinions saying today not to say this beracha? But the Ra'avad, he holds that we don't say with berachot because today we don't say berachot on things that we see anymore. Maybe it's similar to what we said about the Shehechiyanu, but he holds like that. And this is an item that you're seeing in the sky, so it doesn't get a beracha. But Petach Advir says that the reason why we don't say beracha is we don't know the criteria of Chachamim. The criteria of Chachamim is that you have to say the beracha toch kede dibur, within a distance of speaking. I said that's a few seconds, but that's my interpretation. But the Petach Advir says maybe it's a split second, maybe it's something so quick that only if you're right. So we don't know the measurements, and therefore these are the opinions that say to avoid it. But Rabbeinu Ovadia Yosef Zecher Tzadik V'Kadosh Livracha, he knocks everybody out and says, what are you talking about? Of course, you say these berachot, say it toch kede dibur, say it quick, but don't miss out on berachot. A lot of the times, this is the shita of Rav Ovadia. Also regarding Kriyat Shema on the bed, Shema Lamita, there's a beracha over there, Hamapil Chevlei Shena Alenai. The Mekubalim, a lot of them hold, we don't say this beracha b'shem u'malchut. But Rav Ovadia says, what are you talking about? This is an ancient beracha, also appears in the Gemara, and we say it b'shem u'v'malchut. So we see that maybe this is a certain, Rav Ovadia doesn't want to take away berachot from us. Says you can say, you feel comfortable saying that beracha.
So Rav Ovadia said to say both brachot, for lightning and one after each other.
So he says, yeah, we say the berachot. Yalkut Yosef brought that in parentheses. He says maybe, I don't know if he says this because maybe he's worried about the safek, but he says maybe better to just say one beracha on both of them. But again, you have a lot of maybes here. If you want what to rely on, you could definitely say both berachot. You have a Rav Ovadia to rely on. If you want to be careful, you could only say one. If you want to be careful like the Mekubalim, you could just say it without saying Hashem's name. According to Rav Ovadia, you would be missing a beracha, but according to the Mekubalim, no, this is the way to do it. Maybe because we don't know how much time we have until we need to say the beracha. Maybe because we don't say beracha on something that we see. Yeah, I was going to start with the rainbow, but maybe we'll leave the rainbow. Next week, Bezrat Hashem, we'll learn about the rainbow. Oh, next week is it's going to be Rosh Hashanah for me. So no next week, Bezrat Hashem. We're going to see you in 2 weeks. I want to take the opportunity to wish you all a Shana Tova, Dima Tova, Besorot Tovot, health for you and your family. And if at any point...
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova, dear Giacomo. If by any chance I wasn't careful with someone's kavod, please know I didn't mean it. There are a lot of faces happening simultaneously. I hope that you all forgive me. And we should go into this year. Tichle shana v'kililoteh, tachel shana v'berkoteh. All right, guys. Let's do it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Shana Tova.